Back to iiKnows. It's going to be NFL Week 15, and we're doing the review of the big games. We're going to start out today with the first big game that really happened, and that was on Thursday night. Chargers going to Kansas City to play the Chiefs, and the Chargers ended up winning that game 29-28.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on the game first.
When I was watching the game, first off, it was a very entertaining game. It was one of the best games of the year, in my opinion, up there with the Chiefs-Rams game. And the Chargers just showed why they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender, scoring 14 points in the fourth quarter to go ahead and get the go-ahead two-point conversion at the very end of the game. Philip Rivers making some really key throws, and the Chiefs' defense kind of just folding there at the end. They really showed the talent differential between them and the rest of the league.
Yeah, what I thought, I watched basically the first half of the game. First half of the game, Chiefs dominating the entire game, especially on defense, forcing Philip Rivers to get sacked and throw some key interceptions, especially in the red zone, closing near the end of the half. So whenever I turned the game off, I thought there was no way the Chargers were coming back to win this game, considering how well the Chiefs have been playing, especially in defense. Chris Jones was eating up in the middle, but you can never count the Chargers out, and they really showed that this week, and they are a legitimate threat to win the Super Bowl this year. Some people's favorites.
Yeah, they're my favorite to win the Super Bowl this year. They have the most talented roster through and through, and on the side of the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes in every single one of his most important games has lost, and if that trend continues this week against the Seahawks, that'd be very interesting with a quarterback who seems to not be able to win in prime time and a coach who can't win in the playoffs, it seems.
Yeah, well, this is really his first year starting, so he hasn't had to play these big games yet, but I see where you're coming from, and I really hope that the Chiefs can get it back together, because whenever they have it together, they are a fun team to watch.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this because I like the Chiefs or anything, but I'd like to see them go far in the playoffs, maybe have an AFC championship round against the Chargers again. That would be a great game. But for the rest of the season, the Chiefs need to win out. Next game that Trent and I both thought were a very playoff.
A game that had a lot of playoff implications,
Yes,
a lot of things to talk about.
Where it was the Indianapolis Colts and the Dallas Cowboys, where the Colts won 23-0. Yeah, that was something. Would you like to give your take on it?
Yeah, it was very interesting to see the Cowboys offense has been playing great recently get shut out against the Colts. Now I know they have over the past 5 weeks or so, they've had a top 5 defense, which is really impressive, but even so, if you're a playoff team, there should never be a case where you get shut out.
Yeah, that was something that I wasn't really expecting, but I did predict the Colts to win this game, considering that they were at home. The Cowboys have this tendency to play bad on the road, and it really showed. They couldn't get Zeke involved the way they wanted to, and Dak didn't look like an NFL quarterback, to say the least.
Yeah, I think I picked the Cowboys to win this game, but I said I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts won. But the end result with the Colts winning 23-0, that was very surprising to me, and it just showed the differential in what an elite quarterback can do for your team, with Andrew Luck putting up 23 and Dak Prescott not being able to score 90, because defenses are very comparable. Wide receivers are pretty comparable. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott is obviously much better than Marlon Mack, but Marlon Mack probably had his best day of his life.
The quarterback and the running back basically
in
that situation, which equal each other out. But I think it's a great sign for the Colts, because they showed that their defense can stop an offense that of playoff caliber and that has had recent success. So if they are able to get in, it's going to be a great opportunity for them to really show themselves and who they are in the playoffs. They may not win a game, or they may get blown out, but from last year to this year, making the playoffs is a huge jump, and I think what Frank Wright has done in Indianapolis has been amazing.
Yeah, the Cowboys' offense is really based on getting the ball to Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper out wide in one-on-one situations, and whenever Amari Cooper didn't get the one-on-one situations, he wasn't really able to win, and I think that was a big part of why they didn't have much success, because looking back throughout Dak's career, whenever he had no success with Des Bryant, they had the same system. It's winning one-on-one. He only threw it when Des was wide open. When Des, his main ability is getting the ball in tight coverage, and Dak's not comfortable with that at all. So it was really interesting to see whenever Amari Cooper got more attention that the offense was just completely dead.
Yeah. Well, all I'm saying is the Cowboys wouldn't be in this spot if they still had Tony Romo. If they had Tony Romo,
if they had prime Tony Romo, I don't know about Tony Romo right now.
If they had Tony Romo,
Romo
never got hurt, I'm telling you right now, Cowboys would have the third game that Trent and I decided to put into this video was the Miami Dolphins traveling to the Minnesota Vikings, where the Vikings won by a score of 41-17. What did you think of the game that happened?
Yeah, this was a great game for the Vikings, especially the Vikings offense. Now, the defense just kind of did the same thing it's been doing all year, kept the opposing team under 20, which back like 10 years ago, that's maybe not huge. They scored 17 points, that's a lot back 10 years ago, but now that's really good defense.
Yeah.
And for them to be able to go out and score 41 points, it really shows the impact that I don't know that Kevin Stefanski made the impact, but I think it was more of an impact of getting John DeFilippo out.
Yeah, that was a big factor, but the Dolphins, they shouldn't even put up 14, if we're being honest. Kirk Cousins gave him 7, but that wasn't even really all of his fault. Kyle Rudolph on that pick 6 didn't really throw the block on a screen that was supposed to happen. So I'd fault Kyle Rudolph on that more than I fault Kirk Cousins. And then their other touchdown came off a 75-yard run against Kalen Ballage, the rookie out of Arizona State.
Yeah, Arizona State.
Basically, Mike Zimmer called a blitz and had nobody accounted for in the gap, and he just took off.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, the defense was lights out. They held Ryan Tannehill to like 30 net yards passing, and the defense showed what it's been capable of and that they've changed. And then the offense, on the other hand, when the lights are low, they shine. When the lights are bright, they don't shine.
It was a huge difference between that game that got John DeFilippo fired and this week. It really shows that the Vikings, even though they've had a pretty bad season, they're still a legitimate threat to teams in the playoffs. I'm not going to say they're a contender for the Super Bowl, but they're a threat, and they could be a team to knock out a couple teams and kind of, show something.
In my opinion, I think whoever makes it into the NFC side of the playoffs, they all have a chance to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because, under the right circumstances at least. Because the Eagles, they can still be a threat if they really if the Vikings manage to choke away and get it.
Yeah, the Rams and the Saints have really good records in the NFC, but the rest of the teams that are very talented, their records show the parity in that side of the NFL because if you look at the wins and losses, they've really been hurting each other more than the AFC's done anything. It's honestly like the Eastern Conference and Western Conference. It's getting to that point.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. But
and you don't see it in the records because the NBA, of course, has a much longer season, so they have more Eastern teams and more easy wins. But the talent differential between the NFC and AFC is immense, and the amount of parity in the NFC is like we've never seen in the NFL.
Yeah, but enough about the Vikings. I think the Dolphins, this was the chance for the Dolphins to really submit their chances to be in the playoffs ever since they went to Pittsburgh and lost that one year. And I feel like after that loss, it might have just faded away because their offense, it didn't look like a playoff caliber offense, and their defense got shredded. They didn't have Xavier Howard, and I know he's their best corner and everything, but just because your best corner's out, next man up, and you got to do something to stop an offense that's been struggling with the new offense coordinator. The Dolphins, they should have prepared better because they knew that what Mike Zimmer wanted to do was run the ball, and they knew that what the offense coordinator should have done was going to run the ball. So I feel like Adam Gase might have just played his last big game. Well, not big.
Well, I don't know that he's going to get fired. He's a pretty capable head coach. They don't really give him a lot of support around the roster, but the Dolphins have been a team all year that no one really took seriously until these past couple of weeks. They're like, yeah, if they're still in contention, yeah, they could be in the playoffs. And then they just showed why no one took them seriously.
Yeah. All right, on to the fourth game out of our 6 that Trent and I have picked. We have the New England Patriots who travel to Pittsburgh, and they ended up losing 17-10.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on the game?
Well, I called the Steelers Patriots' little brother, called the Patriots' big brother to the Steelers last week. Whenever didn't get to put that video up, but that was my prediction. So I was wrong about this game, and I think that the Patriots showed their age, and they showed that Bill Belichick as a head coach is maybe being a little less detail-oriented. Tom Brady can't really carry the team the same way, and you got to see a little bit what it's going to be like without Josh Gordon in the future, because he only got targeted 2 times during that whole game, which is a big difference between what they've been doing the whole rest of the regular season. And the Steelers, while they got the solid win, they didn't really show me a lot. It was more about what the Patriots showed to me than what the Steelers showed.
Yeah, well, this game started out great, in my opinion. I thought it was fantastic because you saw 2 very great offenses just going right at it to start the game.
Mm-hmm.
They both scored on their first 2 possessions, and they both scored. No, they didn't. No, it was the first possession for both of them. Yeah, and I thought that this game was going to be a high scoring game, and it was going to be really intense, but it ended up being a very defensive game, and I guess you can attribute that to the game plans and the teams knowing each other so well and understanding what each other does well.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that's necessarily a good thing for the Steelers that it turned into a defensive game, considering that the Patriots have had a very below average defense throughout the season. I mean, while it's a good win for the Steelers, it's an important win for the Steelers, it doesn't prove much to me on their side. Like I said before, it really just shows that I'm not taking the Patriots very seriously this year. I think the mystique is gone.
Yeah, well, I feel like if the Patriots if they manage to get home field advantage for at least a week or 2, they're going to be in the AFC Championship game.
Mm-hmm.
But that ultimately will depend on if Bill Belichick can get his team to get some energy and look right again and get his defense right, because right now that defense isn't looking how it's looked in the past. And I feel like the Steelers had a lot of success because of their new, because they blitzed the most in the NFL. Them in Arizona blitzed the most in the NFL, and I don't think Tom Brady's seen a lot of pressure this year, and so that was something new that Tom Brady faced this week.
Yeah, and got a little jittery towards the end of that game. It seemed like he didn't want to really take any more hits. He started getting rid of the ball pretty early, started moving around in the pocket a little bit too much. He got rattled, and I think that could be something that you see affect him in the playoffs. And like I said, I can't. There's not much more for me to say besides what I already said on this.
Yeah, well, I still have faith in the Steelers' offense to get the job done in the playoffs. You may not be able to depend on them consistently. I did pick them to win because I really felt like the Steelers were going to turn everything around this season, just based on this game, because they have so much history with the Patriots in recency, and they needed to get a win to not be humiliated for the rest of going into next year at least.
Yeah.
And Josh Gordon, he's out for the rest of the year.
Probably longer.
Yeah, he's probably done with football, and I'm sad to hear that. I really enjoyed watching Josh play, but I hope he just gets better mentally and becomes the human being that he wants to be. All right, now on to the 5th game out of our 6. We have the Philadelphia Eagles, who traveled to Los Angeles this past Sunday night, and they took home the W, 30-23, in a very well-fought game.
Yeah, this has a very eerily similar feel to the Eagles last season. Carson Wentz goes down late. Nick Foles secures it while they were dominating more earlier in the season last year. It's still kind of the same type of situation. They're right there in the playoffs. It's a very good win for them. The Rams, they do look tired. They do look like there's something going on in that locker room. Not really sure what it is, but there seems to be a disconnect on the defensive side of the ball a little bit. But I'm not going to diminish what the Eagles were able to accomplish, because it's still a big win late in the season in LA, and that's a really hard thing to do when you're a team that's been struggling all year and your franchise quarterback just went out.
Yeah, well, the Eagles, they've blown a bunch of leads this year, and that's really been the demise to what they have been this year. Because last year they got the wins like that. They didn't finish out games blowing them.
Yeah.
They finished out games winning the close games at the end and keeping the offenses at bay in the fourth quarter. So I found that to be different in how they're changing it back around. Maybe they can make the playoffs, but they're going to need some help. And with that help, they're also going to have to beat the Texans this week. Texans, they're coming off a big win in New York, and we're going to have to see what Nick Foles does. But onto the Rams side, you can't turn the ball over whenever you're getting the ball back with like 2 minutes left, and off a punt return, that's a mental mistake. And I don't have much to say about that.
Yeah, Todd Gurley's not getting the ball as much as he should be. Jared Goff, he's starting to unravel a little bit. He doesn't have
looking like the Jared Goff with Jeff Fisher, huh?
Yeah, he's not looking great right now, and I want to talk a little bit more on the Eagles side. And last season, they got out to the early leads, and whenever they got that lead, it seemed like they pushed the pedal to the metal once they got the lead. And this year, it's like they're getting the early leads, and then coming off the Super Bowl, they just expect the team to lay down and
roll over.
Yeah, them to be able to do whatever they want for the rest of the game. It's like they lost that second level intensity that they had last year. So I think that's been their main problem. Maybe they got over that hump, and if they did, then this is a team to watch out for. While I don't necessarily believe that they completely earned the Super Bowl last year, nonetheless, if you win a Super Bowl, you have some type of playoff talent, and it could be a team to watch for down the stretch. But the Rams, like I said, their defensive side they look really tired. They look like they have a disconnect on some type of level. I don't know what it is, but the defensive tackles are pushing up the field too much, missing run gaps, and not necessarily being effective even when they are rushing the quarterback. The offense, Jared Goff is not playing up to par. They're not giving Todd Gurley the ball enough. Maybe he has some type of lingering injury that they could be covering up. I don't know. But it's not looking great for the Rams. They're starting to unravel. Like you predicted at the beginning of the season, they would start off really hot. Towards the end, towards the playoffs, they would start to cool off.
Yeah, I said that because you have so many personalities in that locker room. It's going to be hard to keep them all in check and all happy, because you got Marcus Peters. At the end of the game, he goes up into the stands and starts trying to heckle a heckler.
Yeah.
Like, what is he doing? It's childish. He's not a professional. Come on, man. Come on, man. Like, how are you going to... I don't see this Rams team winning a playoff game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see them go one and done either.
Yeah. They're gonna, if they want to, they're going to have to get back to their identity. And that's being a run-first team, limiting Jared Goff to having to throw the easy throws, getting him to throw the ball deep whenever the deep ball is there off the play action, because that's what they do best. They do best throwing the deep ball off play action and handing the ball off to Todd Gurley early and often. And on the Eagles side, you got Nick Foles.
Magic man, apparently.
Nick Foles, he just makes the easy throws. He can't make any hard throws. He just does what he's Case Keenum.
Yeah.
He is Case Keenum.
He doesn't force it, and I think Doug Peterson has a little bit of a flaw to where whenever Carson Wentz is in the game, he expects him to be able to make everything work. While whenever Nick Foles is into the game, I think he puts a little more effort into the game plan, and he should be doing that no matter who the quarterback is. And I think that's more of a flaw on him rather than the team.
All right, we're on to the last game that Trent and I had picked out to be the key matchups and key games for this week. It's the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints, and the Saints won this game at a score of 12-9, which was really a defensive matchup that I didn't really expect.
Yeah, this effectively ended the Panthers season. Let's go ahead and start off with that and saying that
Taylor Heineke's going to be the quarterback for the rest of the year.
Yeah, Cam Newton, you saw the impact on his shoulder, and you saw the flaws in his mechanics pop up because we've known forever that he doesn't use his legs, he doesn't use his hips, he doesn't move when he throws, it just comes
It's
off
all
from
over
the
the
shoulder.
body.
Yeah, everything is in the arm and the shoulder whenever he throws the ball, and while that's effective when you're completely healthy, when you do have an injury like that, it really hurts, and his throws are already erratic because of that throwing motion and his play style. He's bound to get injured more, so this could have some severe long-term effects for him. I just want to start off by saying that. Other than that, there's not a lot to talk about the Panthers. On the same side of the ball, a lot of people are going to say that the low score, the bad offense, all of that is a reason behind why they're not legitimate Super Bowl contenders. And I think it's the exact opposite, because every single year there's a team that they struggle and then they kick it up during the playoffs again.
Like the Eagles last year.
Yeah, and they show why they are elite, because they can have a bad game from their offense and the defense steps up and gets it done. They can have the worst game of their season, which I think this was the worst game of the season besides maybe that Cowboys game for the Saints, and they still got the win, and that's a really impressive thing.
Now the thing is, the Saints' losses, they've come, aside from week 1, they've come on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going to be beneficial to them, they're not going to have to go on the road in the playoffs unless they somehow falter against the Steelers and then falter against the Panthers again.
Yeah, they have to lose both, correct?
They would have to lose both, and they're most likely not going to lose both since Cam Newton's going to get benched, and so that's not going to be a factor going into the playoffs with the weather environment and having to travel into a hostile environment. No, it's not going to be a factor. What's going to be a factor though is this defense going to be legitimate at coming playoff time? Are they going to be able to lock down and play the defense that they played last year, which was a lot better than what they're playing this year? I mean, Sheldon Rankins is playing like an amazing defensive tackle this year. He's filling the run gaps and he's getting a healthy amount of pressure on the quarterback. Cameron Jordan, he's been there, done that. You just gotta watch out for this defense come playoff time.
Yeah. They earlier in the season they were really shaky, but I think recently the offense and defense have kind of flip-flopped, and if they ever get this group together, they're gonna both play in top 5 like the defense is right now, like the offense was in the beginning. If they get that together, they're the best team in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, to go along with that, I was really surprised that the Saints defense showed up on the road against the Carolina Panthers team, who is great at home. But that also goes into the fact that Saints players were calling out that Cam Newton couldn't throw the ball during the game because they knew he couldn't. So they would just stack the box and they just played the run like everybody knows the Panthers to be is a power running team.
Yeah.
And that's what happens whenever you have a quarterback that can't throw the ball deep.
And let's just see what happens in Carolina, because there's talks of the owner, the new owner, is going to want to get some success immediately, and Ron Rivera might be out. I think that's a really bad decision.
River boat on, baby.
Yeah, he's not necessarily the best coach, but he knows how to work with Cam. He knows how to deal with Cam. And
I would love to see Ron Rivera on the Browns. That would be crazy.
you know where I want to see him?
The Redskins.
Packers. The Green Bay Packers.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Redskins.
Just let Aaron Rodgers do his thing. Ron Rivera takes care of the defense.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to be the end of the video. Hit the thumbs up button. Hit the bell. Subscribe. Tell your friends about it. And we are out.